Is this on?
Hello. Do we sound great?
It's working. Hi, Elisa.
Hi, Joanna.
Do you want to say hi to your fans?
Sorry to those of you who are my friends. You don't have to be my fan. Thank you so much for being here. I'm genuinely overwhelmed. I was so excited about this for 2 years, and then I got nervous exactly 30 minutes ago. So thank you for witnessing a little handshake going on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here.
This is great. And I think everyone here is in for a treat because y'all are getting to witness the launch of the book of the summer. So we're here. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
All right. I feel like I'm sure that some people, because we're in a room with some booksellers, I'm sure some people have gotten their hands on an advanced copy, but many people have not yet read it. Do you want to give like a little teaser overview spiel?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I was hoping you does. So this novel, Skin Contact, follows a bisexual married couple, Ben and Frances, who are 30 at the beginning of the novel. And just after the sudden death of Frances's mother, sort of in her grief, Frances proposes to her husband that they open their marriage. So it follows them over 5 years. There's a pandemic right square in the middle of it. Over those 5 years of opening their marriage, deciding if they want to have children, processing grief, figuring out just different relationship dynamics with one another and with friends and new partners. It's also told in a kind of interconnected story structure. So every now and then we split off and have the perspective of someone from their friend group, someone they've been on a date with, some of their family members. So it's trying to offer kind of a larger portrait of relationship, adultery, monogamy, friendship, grief, and motherhood a bit more generally in this friend and family group.
Perfect. That's perfect. And it's beautifully done, I might add. Yeah, I've got so many questions. I mean, probably all of us. I have so many questions, so I'm just gonna like jump in with some. One of the things that struck me and that you mentioned just now was the pandemic, and I thought like there's something about this book that I feel like maybe you would have written a different book, but I feel like COVID, pandemic, it feels like that was a key ingredient, and I'm curious if you wanted to speak to that or deny, confirm or deny.
I'm gonna both confirm and deny the writerly answer, a little both and. So I started writing this, and I didn't necessarily know I was going to be working on a full novel or even a full collection. I wrote the very first chapter. Is the first story that I wrote, and I initially published it as a standalone story. And after I was like, oh cool, that was fun to write a short story. Maybe I should write another one. And then I had like just no other ideas. I just wrote about the same people again. I was just curious about them. And I thought, well, what's gonna happen after this story? So I picked up and I wrote another story about them. And after I wrote 2 or 3, kind of based on these characters or some of the characters they had met, I realized I was accidentally writing a full novel. And I initially said it just all post-pandemic. So when I first wrote this story, if you feel like going into the Missouri Review and reading it in its kind of original form, it takes place post-pandemic. But I reset it when I put it together in a big story, because as I started exploring kind of the friendship dynamics and the larger circumstances, it became clear to me that that it almost felt dishonest not to address COVID and the effects of the isolation in a book that is about skin contact, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty deeply about touch and physicality and intimacy. And one really big thing that we all did was not touch other people or be in the same room as them or meet new people for quite a long time. And I didn't feel like I was very accurately exploring the larger effects of the opening of the marriage or its effects in the friend group when I wasn't considering the effects of isolation on how we perceive intimacy and desire. So I reset it backward to kind of look at that.
That makes so much sense to me now, and I didn't know that. But that is it still on? Yeah. One of my favorite moments is the moment where, is it Lily and Annie? But it's a moment where the friends, a group of college friends have kind of reconvened, and they're sort of social distancing. It's at a certain point in the pandemic, and there's this like incredibly, it's one of the moments I was tempted to have you read, and maybe we'll do that, we'll see. But it's the moment at the end of the hangout where they just start hugging one another. And that's one of the things that strikes me about this book, is that it's not just about skin contact in a romantic or erotic sense, but like the powerful friendship sense too.
Yeah, that was something that I didn't necessarily put together, that I was exploring that so explicitly until a couple of different people brought it up, and so now I've thought about it. It was super intentional. No, but it's something I do think about a lot. The physicality of friendship, and it's something that you can see, I think, in a lot of books or movies or what have you about like girlhood or like friendship between girls. But something that I wanted to push on was that isn't just something, between close girlfriends. I wanted to look at how physicality affected like an adult male friendship in this book. And I wanted to think about while I was writing this, I also wrote this over 3 years. And in that time, I became pregnant and became a mom, and I have 2.5-year-old twins, and
Woo!
So does he. It's just something we have in common. But something that I was really mired in when I was writing a lot of it was just how physical that experience was, and not just the physical being pregnant, what have you, but oh my God, I wanted to touch and squeeze and just hold on to those little new guys that I love so much. And I was just thinking, gosh, well, my mom must have felt that about me, and her mom must have felt that about her. And I wish I could ask them, and they have both passed away. I would love to think about how all of these intimate relationships we're in are just so much more physical than gets talked about very much, and we're for some reason very open with the kind of physical touch in romantic relationships. But at least for me, it's a part of all of my relationships.
Oh, I love that. I think that you're a genius. It's a genius answer, and that was so apparent to me. And I like how y'all are going to see this if you haven't had the pleasure of reading this book, but. Oh, there are a lot of ways in which I feel like you really go for it, which I admire.
I do go for it.
You go for it. You go for it, and maybe we'll talk about this. But I think you go for it in a kind of erotique, it's this little, brings a little blush to the cheeks every now and then. But in a way, the other thing I loved is that the moments where, I'm not going to spoil these moments because I think they're so good, but touch and also bodily fluid as a complaint. I was like, oh, she's going for it, and I love it. And but it's I think it is this kind of unafraid of physicality and how we are physical creatures walking around with brains in our head. I don't even know the question I'm asking, except you went for it.
I went for it. It was something that I go back to this moment, and to bring it back to COVID, and just to like kind of tie that together, why I felt like it was so important to go back and include that. I remember a friend of mine
who's here.
A friend of mine, when we were all at some sort of event party where we all had our little lawn chairs and we're sitting like 6 feet apart from each other and kind of yelling across to each other. We all have our own little cooler or whatever. And I remember my friend saying how much she just wanted to like grab everyone's cup and drink from it. Like suddenly it was like a real something you never think about, but you can just be like, is that good? Can I try it? It's just kind of a regular part of little intimacy, and like how you really build trust and community with people are these little moments that, if you think about, are super disgusting. And COVID was like, hey, all the stuff you guys do is really disgusting, and we all had to be aware of that. So I wanted, like I did think of in that chapter, they're concerned about sharing drinks and getting too close, and I wanted to contrast that with other moments of fluids and
Yes.
but things like not just in romantic relationships, right, but things like breastfeeding. It's all disgusting, and we do it because we love each other.
That's yeah. No, it's like I know where I'm driving the ship. This is perfect. No, that's it. I mean, that the two word pairs I had, like disgusting and intimate, like those two, and then like sex and death, like that's the kind of classic. Those are in there, but I think what I most loved so many things, but I think what I really loved about this was how you really looked into the hopeful possibilities of non-traditional long-term relationships. And I feel like anybody who thinks a monogamous marriage or long-term partnership is simple probably just hasn't been in it long enough is my feeling. And I think like what I like is that it's not like there's a pat answer of like, oh, this is the perfect way, this is the easy way. It's all complicated. But one of my questions is, writing this wonderful novel, do you have this feeling like now you have to be the spokesperson, especially because this has kind of been in the discourse a little bit? Do you have that feeling now?
I have that fear now, yes. Extremely have a fear. And like, it's something that tends to happen if you're in a non-traditional relationship, which I am, and the temptation is to say, oh, my relationship is different or unusual, and let me show you how good and easy it is.
Yes.
And anyone could do it because it's super good and super easy. And here's why it's healthy and no problem. There's it's tempting to be the perfect example, or to like prove something.
Right.
And I think anyone who's been in any kind of non-traditional situation has probably felt that. And what was important to me when I was writing this book, which was always going to be like explicitly an exploration of a queer open marriage with couples who like are not straight, right? Most of the relationships are not straight in the book. I wanted to both show, the kind of hopeful, you cited that it's kind of a hopeful view or a loving view. I wanted to show an open queer marriage that was not in crisis. And by virtue of the fact that it was not in crisis, there was a ton of conflict.
Yeah.
Any healthy relationship involves disagreement and confusion and jealousy. You can be in the most kind of straight classic marriage, and one of the like main tropes we have about that is, suddenly the husband is jealous of the baby, right? Or maybe the wife is jealous of the work friends who get to see a different side of the husband. I just think any good relationship, no matter the structure, involves these things that we associate with romantic relationship, like jealousy, like betrayal, like obsession. Sometimes you're obsessed with your new baby or your new friend, or your sibling for a little while. And so I wanted to look at how the mess and the confusion can be aspects of healthy relationship, no matter what form they take.
Perfect answer. Check plus. Check. Yeah, well, and I think that's what I loved about it, and it's what y'all are gonna love about it. It's like, there's and it's nice because you do set up there are other relationships surrounding the central relationship, and that's partly the beauty of this structure, is that a lot of them, even the more traditional ones, are fraught, and I don't know, thus they feel far more real and lived in to me. How are y'all doing out there? Would y'all like to hear Elisa read a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a break from our scintillating conversation. Do you want to read the part you like to read?
It's
standalone.
You want the standalone?
I mean, that might work.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's very short. I'm going to read to you a chapter. It's very shortest chapter in here, and a teeny bit of lore about it. It's the very first thing I ever published, so I'm very proud of it. I really like it, and I wrote it in the middle of the night. At like 4 a.m. when I was pregnant and exhausted and tired, and I wrote it to make fun of myself. So this chapter, this has no spoilers for the book, by the way, but it is from the perspective of the main character, if you want to have one, Frances, who is married to the other main character, Ben. It's called A Sex Fantasy as I Fall Asleep Next to My Husband. Page 87, follow along. It starts like this. I open my front door and there you are. I'm wearing a dress. It's casual, gray, ribbed fabric, razorback top. My shoulders are tan, a little broader and more toned than my real shoulders. That's okay, this is just a fantasy. If my shoulders looked like that, I'd have short hair to show them off. Alexa Chung's haircut. I'm a bit thinner in the face. That makes sense. I'm grieving. The dress has a slit up one side. I'm pregnant, of course. That's why this is so tragic. When I open the door, I place one hand on my belly, which is perfectly round. As I consider you, I run my hand up and down as though I'm protecting the baby, or using it as a talisman to protect me from you. Oh, I say. It comes out as a breath. The rims of my eyes are red, but not puffy. I have summer freckles across my nose. My eyes would be puffy, though. I'm really sad, depressed, forcing myself every day to push through. Well, it's okay to imagine my eyes wouldn't be puffy. It's just a fantasy. But it's important that you see how hard this has been for me. And it would be hard, wouldn't it? Maybe too hard. How would I even survive? If Ben died when I was pregnant before he got to meet the baby, maybe there shouldn't be a baby. And I could be wearing black. In the summer, though, well, it could be winter. No, there has to be a baby. I'd have to have a reason to be alive. If he died, I'd kill myself. I'd convince everyone I was fine so that they would leave me the fuck alone in my own goddamn house, and then I'd do it. Maybe pills. No, not pills. I hate throwing up. You can die from sodium poisoning if you drink enough soy sauce. I like salt, but still, throwing up. Maybe a gun. It's easy to buy a gun. I'd tell whoever was babysitting me that I had errands, something innocuous, books I had pre-ordered, a quick shot to the head, easy, a blip. You would be sad if I died. You would be the one grieving. Huh. I might not do it if there were a baby, Ben's baby. I would love it because it was him and me, my baby pictures, that little girl on the beach holding a high C, her curling hair around a messy ponytail, with his brown eyes, the slight gap between his front teeth. Maybe he could stay alive long enough to meet her. Couldn't she be there, a toddler, grabbing my leg as I opened the door? That would give him time to have a longer death. Maybe he gets sick when the baby's a newborn, and then he has time to explain to me about our investments. If he died suddenly when I was pregnant in a car crash or something, I'd be in shock. And I'd seem like an idiot because I have no idea about our money and things. But the shock is important. Why would I say yes to you otherwise when you show up at my door and are going to ask me what you're going to ask? How could I watch him die and then give even one fuck about you? I would hate you. But anyway, I would open the door and say, oh, like a breath, there you are. You're sorry about Ben, about everything. You've come to realize that you didn't treat me the way I deserve to be treated, that you shouldn't have ended things the way that you did. Your eyes are puffy, your hair is a mess, and you're in a t-shirt and cut off shorts. But that doesn't matter to me because you're beautiful. Later, after you've said what you came to say, we'd be in bed, the pink sheets over our faces, the sunlight shining through so that we're both glowing rose. I want to cry looking at you, the way your wild curly hair falls against your forehead and your bare arms. In the doorway, you say something like, hi. Maybe you're actually wearing that white shirt, that band one, the one that cuts off right at your belly button. You say something like, I know this sounds crazy, but this is so stupid. It's okay to imagine just spending a day with you without all this bullshit. Maybe we just run into each other somewhere, like both of our flights were canceled and we can't get home, so we just decide to pretend that you never hurt me and never left me for just tonight, and no one has to die or be born because of it. But imagine that you said to me, I know this is crazy, but I've been thinking about it, and what if we did this together? What if you let me help you and love the baby and love you forever? What if you let me watch rom-coms and eat dinner on the couch with you for the rest of your life? Because I love you, and I loved you then even though I never said it. You don't ever have to love me as much as you loved him. If you said that, I would move my hand from the door, take a step back, and let you in. You would cry and fall to your knees and wrap your arms around me and kiss my belly. I would get down on my knees too and grab your face in mine and say something like, everyone will think we're crazy. It usually ends like that. It's implied that we have sex, but I only imagine the sex if I'm in bed alone and feel like masturbating. Even then, I don't get very far before I just put on porn. The best part is the clothes and the grief and knowing I'm getting what I want and doing nothing wrong.
So good. We're in the room with the living genius. The best part is the clothes and the grief. My favorite part about listening to that, which is so good, and I forget how in that passage, but also in the whole novel, you're so good at operating at just a number of different registers. Like it's funny, it's moving, it's genuinely pretty steamy. Like it's all of the things. But the best part about this just now was listening to your husband laugh at the good parts. as you read it, that was chef's kiss.
He should know better.
No, they were the right parts. I was laughing too. So here's a trick question. Is it harder to write about grief, sex, or is it the same thing every time?
Oh my God. It's so easy to write about grief that I didn't know I was doing it. I just to talk specifically about that story, I had written already by the time I wrote it. It's the first one I published, but the third or fourth story I wrote. So I had already written some of the others that are more specifically about grieving, or more specifically set in a moment of grief. And I wrote this, like I said, in the middle of the night, and I thought it was super funny. And I just wrote it and sent it out, and it got published, which was wonderful. And then the journal that published it has a little author interview feature. And the person who interviewed me said something, I don't remember exactly, but something along the lines of, this is called a sex fantasy, but this is a death fantasy. Why this is about dying and grieving. And I remember reading that and being like, no, it isn't. And I looked at it again and I was like, oh, it really is. I think it's just been something that has come out. I actually wrote this first story in here, Mother Love, kind of specifically as an exercise to learn how to write about sex. I was like, I'm very timid. Because maybe I was, I don't know. I thought I was very timid, so I thought I needed to practice writing about sex. And so I did. And it was something I had to kind of, teach myself how to do and convince myself. It's something I have to edit a lot in order to feel good about. And the grief sure does just roll out. And it sneaks its way in, I don't even know.
That's so interesting. My question was half in jest and half I think that was probably something I wrote on a freshman poetry, sex equals death. They're always the same, but it is interesting how one is sort of just permeating the text and one you're having to think about. Yeah, you did a really good job. I would say that timidity really just fell right away. It's very well done. And actually, that brings up a question. I am always curious. I think I know you to be primarily a reader of literary fiction, and I would definitely classify this as literary fiction. But how deeply did you delve into romance proper? Did you do any kind of recon or?
Oh, that's another thing that just rolls out of me. I have a hat that Will gave me this year that's my favorite gift that just says directed by Nora Ephron. I just grew up on rom-coms. I cannot count the number of times I have watched You've Got Mail with my grandmother, right? Or I watched Moonstruck a million times with my mom. When Harry Met Sally, I've seen them all so many times, and I love them.
Yeah.
They're just in my heart. So I'm a big believer in a happily ever after. And it was very much on my mind that I wanted to see what would happen if you wrote a rom-com about an open marriage and grief. I was curious about happy endings. I was curious about a romance structure and a romantic comedy structure. And I did want to. I didn't specifically do research because it's just right there.
Yeah. It's in.
But it's in the DNA of the book, I think.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. A little Lily King, Ulysses, you name it, mixed in.
Wonderful references.
Yeah. My deep background. That makes so much sense. What was the funnest part? What was the one, your favorite one to write? Yeah. What was?
The funnest one to write. I wrote, to me, I have three most fun.
Okay.
These are not my favorite chapters probably, but my three most fun. Two of them I wrote when I was my most miserable. I hated being pregnant. It was a really bad experience to me.
Do not recommend.
Yeah, recommend if you want to. I was so very miserable when I was pregnant. I felt really bad. I felt very bad physically. I felt also very depressed. Had a weird hormone thing happening. And I wrote what I think are the funniest chapters while I was so miserable, and that is the one I just read, which I do have a soft spot for, and another one from the perspective of a kind of a side character named Annie. She's friends with someone Ben and Frances have a threesome with. And it's just a little diary of her first trimester of being pregnant. And
Going to Taco Bell.
She becomes obsessed with eating Taco Bell. The whole story is just how many times she goes to Taco Bell. And I just I was so miserable and having so much fun writing that chapter. And I really, it includes some of my favorite lines. I don't want to spoil it.
It is really good. I do recall that wonderful chapter, and I like the moment where in her kind of pregnancy, state, she's distressed because she's like, I behaved like a Karen. I behaved like a
she has all kinds of big blow ups and. I had a great time writing that chapter. And then another favorite chapter of mine to write was the last one that I wrote, which is from the perspective of a close friend of Frances, who is the mother of a toddler, and her whole chapter is about how annoying it is to have a friend in an open marriage. I had a great time writing her perspective, and just considering some of my characters who I had been invested in for so long, from that kind of different perspective, and putting them in a new light. It was it was a fun writing exercise, and it just personally made me laugh.
It's so good. It's so good. I love to hear about these. I guess that's fiction, right? It's it's always true even when it's false, and it's always false even when it's true. You're constantly injecting little things from your own lived experience, but it's never exactly. It's never exactly what it is, or at least there's plausible deniability. And that does, I know from what you've said and from my deep background, I know that there were things that you drew on from your own experiences that were kind of kernels as you came to this. How is that? Do you find that, I know it's early, but do you find that there can be a reader response that just assumes a one-to-one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's really tempting to assume a one-to-one, especially in something that is, the film between my relationship and this relationship is, it's quite transparent from that kind of outside perspective, right? The age is correct, the timeline is correct, the situation is correct, and also we have a long, rich tradition of assuming that women only write diaries and journals and write about themselves. That's a fun literary tradition since the dawn of time. And I think what has been really fascinating to me from the writer perspective is almost to notice how true it is, but how true exactly every single character in here is to my experience. Ben and Frances are both the main characters in this marriage, and they operate quite differently in terms of how they think about their marriage and how they come to it and how they behave in it. And I've had a few kind of early readers, no one I knew, but who kind of DM'd me or something on Instagram, and more than one of them was like, I'm really sorry I related to Ben way more than Frances. Yikes. Sorry. Assuming that, of course, I'm the Frances, and that's offensive to me. And that's been fun, kind of, because I sometimes read it and I feel like I'm the Ben, or I'm the friend who's annoyed by the open marriage, or I'm the, grandmother. All of these characters are different kind of traits that I have felt, and the task that I have found the task of writing to be to kind of hone in on one of those character traits or quick trains of thought or beliefs, and then explore that from within. But I have found it incredibly personal, more personal than I even thought, and in ways that really surprised me. because everyone is doing stuff I would absolutely never do. And also everyone is doing something that I have or would do. It's been really, it makes me think about other books differently too. It's
right,
curious.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's funny. I'm like hard relate. It's like there's like, even in the most, that's what's so fun about fiction is often you are injecting something of yourself into almost everybody. Even, there are some who are more, to the outside eye would be more closely aligned, but even the ones we overhear, it is and it isn't. That makes a ton of sense. How are we? I want to make sure the room gets to. I have plenty more questions that I can ask, but I'm wondering if maybe I shouldn't be too greedy. Should we let the room? Do people want to?
Yes.
Eric. That's a question. So, one of the things that first jumped out to me in the book is how funny it is, and how that's just the nature of the characters. It reminded me a lot of you guys, how you talk and how fun you are. But I keep thinking about this relationship between comedy, grief, and sex. And what does comedy to you do to grief? What does comedy do for you for sex? We kind of talked about death and sex, but comedy kind of seems to be intertwined with all of these things. And so what does that mean?
That's such a good question. Immediately, this is off the cuff, immediately my answer to that was going to just be embarrassment, right? Aren't all of those things so embarrassing? And I think of, when I say they're embarrassing, I think I mean that like all of them come from this kind of off the cuff, embodied reaction. If something is funny and you laugh, or if you make kind of a strange association that's funny, I don't think it's that dissimilar to when you have a kind of very embodied reaction like crying, right? All of these emotions or topics are things that you experience really, really closely and physically. And almost in both, I would say both for comedy, like when I was kind of specifically writing my funny chapters, or what I clearly think I'm funny, y'all. I'll just get that out there. When I was writing what I think of as are kind of like my funny chapters, like it was a way for me to process things that I was feeling incredibly uncomfortable and confused. I'm able to sit up here and say something like, I really did not like being pregnant. Only because I had to spend 9 months of feeling really horrible and terribly guilty that I really didn't like being pregnant. And one way I was able to come to terms with that as just a fact, both were that because it turned out well, happy endings are good, and also because I had to think about how it was funny. I had to think about the things that were funny or weird that were going on in my body. And I had to look at it from a comedic perspective, sort of in order to cope with the grief of that, and the confusion of that. And I think in my real life, and quite specifically for the characters in this book, one way of dealing with a really devastating loss is to try to awaken other relationships by opening a marriage, and attempt to sort of fill these really sad losses and holes in the self through laughter or romantic obsession or what have you. So if you read a part that's funny, I was probably really going through it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try to articulate this as best I can because I'm so nervous. I loved how you gave a confidence to sort of an invisible queer community and didn't focus so much on trying to like build that up as the whole point of the book. But then you put this character in, and I'm not gonna give spoilers, but Gina, who I feel like is kind of a force of having people that don't understand or support that community to look inward. And did you very intentionally write her that way, or was it more just like you just wanted to have that dynamic in the friend group, or where did she come from?
That's a great question. And this is the character I mentioned before, who's like the mother of toddlers, who's just like, oh my God, just shut up. I don't know what you're talking about. Which I think is just like a real, I mean, I feel that, again, everyone's me. So I'm also sometimes like, Elisa, shut up. Let's talk about something else. Right? I think it felt accurate to me and real, but it did also, I think what felt especially interesting to me about someone like Gina, who is the character who sort of most doesn't support and like most is confused by the decision to open the marriage, that she is the character who's the new mother, who in one of the scenes of the book is having a kind of disagreement with Frances, and the seed of that disagreement is sort of that she doesn't understand what Frances is doing, but also that Frances really doesn't understand what she's doing. You know, there's a lot that happens, like I think I said before, like behind every closed door of a relationship. And sometimes what's going on is that you're having a really tough time at home because your like toddler won't eat or won't go to bed. And that can also be something that's very like confusing and invisible in a friend group. Especially in your mid-30s, you know, when everyone's at different stages. So I wanted to think about like across relationships, what's going on that's invisible, what is seen and unseen, and what do we want to like protect? And whether or not that impulse to protect is, you know, quote unquote healthy or like serving the characters. But as regards sort of the kind of invisibility of the queer characters, I wanted to look at, you know, Ben and Frances have really different relationships to being in a heterosexual marriage and both being bisexual people. And there are different, you know, social stigmas that are attached to Frances and Ben by virtue of their gender. And Ben has a harder time being public and visible in, you know, appearing gay than Frances does. And that was something I wanted to put out there on the page too. So yeah, I hope it'll be something for people to think about.
These are good questions. Do y'all want to start?
Yeah.
Really.
My question's about the structure of the book. So as you mentioned, right, you have Ben and Frances as this node, and then the book kind of moves outward kind of concentrically to these other perspectives and characters. And you get like even sometimes a few degrees from the sort of primary couple. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking while I was reading it, like you could theoretically have an infinite amount of voices and perspectives that you could bring into this. But you keep the book pretty short, pretty focused. You also manage to make it still feel novelistic, like it didn't feel necessarily like a short story collection around the same characters. It felt like there was like narrative and thematic cohesion. There was an arc to it. And so yeah, I was curious, A, were there like perspectives that you wanted to write about or did write about that didn't make the cut? And B, kind of how you went about organizing the chapter order and how you sort of retained that feeling of it being a novel despite it being in some ways stochastic, but still in other ways orderly.
Thank you. That's such a good question. I think just even in early responses to it, have found that some people find it like really tight and structured like a novel, and some people have found it a bit harder to piece together. So I think that'll be a matter of just personal taste. But for me, I'm so happy that you think it, goes together. I felt that it did. And I initially, when I started building off of the short stories that were just about Ben and Frances, I had an idea that what it would be was a book that followed the sort of long through line of Ben and Frances, and then every other chapter was about the person that they had just gone on a date with or were currently seeing, so that it would mirror the experience of dating, where sometimes, you're seeing someone for a little while, so maybe they're in a few stories, and then you break up and sometimes you don't see them again, or sometimes they become more of a side character, and then maybe you run into them in the grocery store, a year later, and it's very awkward, and you're like, hey, who's that guy again? That was the initial idea, and then so I wrote Lily. She's the first person that they sleep with, and so she got her chapter about her friend group. And then I thought about doing it again, and it just didn't feel like I was probing any new territory by continuing to just think about the relationship of dating. Because it's not quite just an open marriage story, right? It's a polyamory story. And one thing that feels fruitful in looking at polyamory is just looking at love more widely and different forms that love can take. And what felt more fruitful to me was to think about the deep nature of the friendships and of the family. And I wanted to consider how those forms of love were as worthy of my time as a writer as were any of the sort of romantic loves that were happening. And then I just simply couldn't stop from writing about Frances's mother and grandmother for two reasons. And one is because I think that a big theme of the book is the fear of growing older and disappearing. And it's something that happens for the women in the book. They're afraid of disappearing specifically into motherhood or becoming, not sexually attractive anymore, sort of like aging out of being the right demographic, and I didn't want for Frances's ancestors to disappear into the Frances story. So that felt kind of important to me. And I also thought that it could be interesting to consider 3 generations of women and their differing views on what marriage meant and what fidelity meant, because, they're quite different. And part of that was personal, because I would love, again, to like ask my mother and grandmother these things, like, what do you think about this? But it just felt like a really interesting comparison to me to look at all of those different differing perspectives and some of the more valuable relationships, even though those people aren't actively in Frances's life. Does that answer your question? Kind of.
Yes.
Okay. I went off over here, I think.
I think I had a lot of questions. Answered at least one or two of them.
Okay.
Other questions out there?
Question.
Hi.
Did you ever have a different title for the book?
Oh my gosh. Do you know the answer?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yes, this novel, even when I was querying it out to my agents and even when we sold it to my publisher, was titled Mommy. So you could have had a nice book called Mommy. And I love that title. I still love it. And I sold the book to a US and a UK publisher at the same time. So there were 2 concerns with Mommy. And one was that it would be Mummy. In the UK, people would think it was a horror book. And we said, surely you guys know what Mommy means. And then my US editor at that point could no longer hide that she just didn't think that it was sexy for it to be called Mommy. And I said, I just don't think you're paying attention, girl. But we did change it. And I love this title. I really did love Mommy. But I had a really good time looking through the book, and my agent and I were like combing through the book for different references of what it should be, and we landed on Skin Contact and just thought it was really great, and luckily the whole team ended up liking it. And it's a reference to the wine, which please have some Skin Contact wine. It's a direct reference to a point in the book where they're talking about Skin Contact wine, and in the reference the character Frances is thinking that it reminds her of skin-to-skin contact with a newborn, and as she's kind of thinking about that, she's sitting across from her best friend who she's known since college, and like just wanting to like touch her, wanting to put a hand on her back, and so it was an attempt to kind of touch on all those things.
I love the title. I love hearing the story of the original title, but I love the title. I'm stealing a turn. It's supposed to be y'all's turn, but I will say that that gets at part of what I love about this book is the way that it glides between the sensuous and the sensual, and it all. I mean, maybe that goes to the whole kind of like bodily, but yeah, like the wine and how that relates to the skin contact. And I truly think you could be a food writer if you wanted to be as a sideline. Because it's so rich in the senses as writing, even when it's not about the kind of, I mean, I guess we expect writing about physical intimacy to be somewhat rich in the senses, but it's always rich in the senses. That wasn't really a question. It was just a compliment.
It was really nice.
It was a compliment. Yeah, it was an interjected compliment. Do we have time for one more question? Okay. One more burning. Oh, I think I see.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I'm curious about the technical aspect of writing and having to write so many different characters and like the process of that. How do you manage so many differing perspectives? And is that an issue of you write one and you focus on getting that one right, and then it's sealed up and you move on to something else? Or are you kind of like jumping around and?
I really jumped around. That's a good question. No, I really did jump around. For the most part, because it was important to me, I think I should say it was important to me that each chapter did function alone as a standalone story. Both because I just liked it, and also because I didn't know how I was going to sell it. I didn't know if I was going to sell it as a novel or as a short story collection or however it would sell. And so I was sort of, when I was really kind of in a character's perspective, I was giving them a story that sort of like had a beginning, middle, and end. But as far as the characters who repeat, which there are several, no, I would set them down for quite a long time and then come back to them. And at least in one character's case, there's like a 25-year age gap between their two perspectives. So I had to consider as well, like how aging would change the opinions of that character and how they are kind of in their world. I think I think the way that I write is that I just become obsessed with the character. I basically don't know the plot of stuff. I'm really sorry if you read this and you're like, there's no plot. Maybe you're right. I really like to just like burrow into the character and then like let them guide where the story goes. And then I have to edit it and make sure there is a plot. But so the character was, didn't feel as complicated to me as other aspects like storyline payoffs and plot structure felt like something I had to work harder on.
Wonderful.
Thank you.